What's up, everybody? This is Grant, that Cause Artist. Welcome back to another episode of the Disruptors for Good podcast. Today, we're chatting with Jorge Richardson, founder and CEO of Hope Hydration. Hope Hydration is on a mission to bring free, clean drinking water to every street corner using beautifully designed refill stations funded entirely through advertising. It's a powerful mix of hardware, software, and social impact. And Jorge and his team are already making waves in cities like New York, LA, and Miami. In this episode, Jorge shares his unexpected journey from aspiring investment banker to building one of the most innovative startups in public infrastructure. We talk about everything from launching at massive music festivals to closing a $20 million Series A round, to why cold water and bright screens might just be the future of urban hydration. If you're into climate solutions, smart cities, or just love hearing about bold ideas and them coming to life, this is a great episode. Let's dive in. Awesome, Jorge. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, man. Super excited to chat about your journey, about Hope Hydration. Congrats on the Series A raise. Big step, man. So congrats there to you and the team. Before we get into Hope Hydration and everything you and the team are building, talk about that journey, man. You've done a lot of cool things in impact business and really have that all had a kind of a technology as a foundational sort of layer. So kind of walk us through that career path up till now before founding Hope.
Yeah, it's a very atypical path for me, at least. I grew up thinking I was going to be an investment banker. So I studied finance. I went to business school. I'm the son of an investment banker. So I was like, this is my this is my calling. And I landed like the dream job over summer in New York. And it was yeah, a lot of internal kind of discovery, we'll call it, of what do I really want to do? And I think it's much easier to look back and see things like very clearly than in the moment. And so looking back for me, it was I wanted to be building things and not sitting in a chair analyzing people that are building things.
Yeah.
The long story short is I ended up leaving New York. I was at a Buddhist monastery in Nepal. I met an entrepreneur who said, "You need to listen to your calling and your gut feeling. There's a small startup in Spain. Come out and let's just do something for a year."
Mm-hmm.
And I took the leap, and I was very decision matrix. I was like, in the worst case, I spend a nice year on the beach in Spain, and on the best case, it is an adventure of life. And that adventure of life happened, and it led me to starting Hope with some amazing people.
Amazing, man. So when you left Spain, you kind of come back. Was there anything that triggered Hope Hydration in general, the idea for that? Or did that just trigger the idea of, okay, I want to build something. Now let's go find out what I want to build. How did you figure out that you wanted to build in a crazy world, like let's call it, for lack of a better word, like a hardware startup? Obviously there's technology built into it, but there's a whole nother layer of things when you have like
Totally.
a physical device. So I guess
Totally.
talk about just that transition of figuring out, getting to the point where you're like, okay, I want to build Hope Hydration.
Yeah. I'll start out by saying ignorance is bliss. I did
Yes.
not know how hard hardware startups are going to be. And I would do it a million times over again, but I think that I would warn myself, like, hardware is not easy. It's called hardware for a reason. But when I was in Spain, we worked on a project for about 2 years where we built an iPhone app that mapped every free water fountain you could find in the world. And by its peak, we probably had about 500,000 logged places you could refill anywhere, right? Both in New York City, but also in Bali. And we had created this kind of incentive system for the community to start helping us find more places. And so
Mhm.
you had an in-store app. You get points every time you refilled, but you get like a ton more points every time you uploaded a new fountain that wasn't in our database. And you could change those points for iPhones, for Spotify gift cards, for whatever at the time. And a couple key learnings were like the community driven piece of this like really works, especially when you gamify it. But like the community wants solutions. That
Mhm.
was really clear. But then being in New York City, looking at the app and being like, oh, there aren't any water fountains except for like on the Upper West Side in like a park. I'm not walking 15 miles. Neither is 99.999% of people. Okay, cool. What are my alternatives? Well, I could go into Starbucks or a coffee shop and ask them to refill, but that's not a great user experience. Like, yes, they will and they're happy to, but there's still friction. And so I'm thinking, okay, great. How do we put free water in front of this coffee shop? And how do you put that on every street corner of Manhattan? And that was like that was the driver, the original driver of Hope was this kind of question. It was like, well, I'm frustrated. Like, yes, I'll go into a coffee shop, but like this is not great. And there's a 7-Eleven here. I could very easily just walk in and for $1, buy a water bottle, drink it, throw it away. Like the system's already created. It's pretty frictionless, but it's not really sustainable and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. What does a model look like where we can put free water on every street corner of Manhattan? Okay, question number two is, can that model exist? What do we need? Fine. How does that model scale to other cities across the country? How does that model scale to other cities across the world? And that those questions, they ended up being like 4 or 5 questions. They just like ate at me enough where I was like, okay, like this isn't just a random fleeting frustration. Like this is something that one is really pissing me off. And
Mm-hmm.
two, if we can solve for, could be like generational change. If you like scale it up to its largest possible, you started the idea and as big as you could possibly think about it, like this is a massive system change and like net benefit to the world. That was enough for us to start Help. Was like the combination of the frustration and okay, cool. Like if everything works better than we could imagine, we can wave our magic wand. Like this can scale to be so much bigger and so much better than we can imagine.
Yeah.
So let's just do it. And so we started.
When somebody asks you what hope is, how do you explain it to them? Let's get into kind of the nitty gritty and kind of explain to everybody exactly what the product is and how it works.
Tried and true question because we've gone through this like 400,000 times over the evolution, and I think we're in a better place now. Um, the core of what we're trying to do has not changed. We're trying to build a generational company. I think we are now building a generational company that will bring free water within a 5-minute walk anywhere on planet Earth. That's a really lofty vision. Our kind of mission statement, or not mission statement, but our like tagline is refill your next adventure. And so the way that we've positioned Hope Hydration isn't just a water solution, right? We're half water, half media. We install free water fountains at venues currently across the country, hopefully soon across the world. We don't charge for the machines. We don't charge for the installation. We don't charge for the maintenance. We do it all for free. And we pay for both the machines, the operations, making sure that the water works, making sure the filters are good, all through advertisers. So advertisers will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, we're looking for more placements in Times Square." We're like,
Yep.
"Great, we have a station in the middle of Times Square that not only serves as like an ad that you can see, but it's an ad that people are interacting with and walking away with something." So there's like a positive net positive ROI there for advertisers. We didn't want to just be a water company. We didn't want to just be like helping transition away from single use plastics. We didn't just want to be an advertising company. And I think we took a playbook out of like some of our favorite brands are Red Bull,
Mm-hmm.
they're National Geographic, they're Rivian. At the core, one could argue Red Bull's a can of energy. And one could argue that Nat Geo is a paper or now digital like magazine.
Yeah. They own a soccer team. They have a TV station, Red Bull TV. Like, yeah, they're a media company that sells what happens to just be an energy drink.
Exactly. And I mean, they dropped a person from space. Like he, like, I want to, I want to know who's in, like, if you're in charge of the budget for Red Bull to come up with these crazy stunts, please call us because like
So
you have the
cool.
best job ever. But for us, like that was how we wanted to position the company. We said, well, what is hope? Hope is water, right? And what is water? Well, water is life, and water connects all pieces of life. Well, that's an interesting take. Like we're really fueled. We're mostly a pretty young team, so we're fueled by like energy and adventure and excitement, and it has actually shaped a lot of our early product roadmap. Is the places that we want it to be. Personally, we're like, well, why not tie that in? Why not refill your next adventure? And that came to life of like, if you can find free water within a 5-minute walk on planet Earth, doesn't matter if you're going on your walk to a park, if you're going to the gym, or if you are backpacking Bali tomorrow and people tell you, well, you shouldn't drink the tap water, but you see a Hope station and you're like, no, no, Hope's done their homework. Like, I trust, I'm going to refill from the Hope machine. We've effectively refilled your adventure of life. And so It's a very long-winded answer for like who
No,
we
but
are and what we do.
I love the, and I'll put everything in the show notes. Obviously, we'll have pictures and like we'll have the whole gamut and stuff like that. But it's more of, I would say, a vending machine sort of size, let's say.
Mhm.
And so it's a sort of beautiful piece of hardware that, obviously like businesses, airports, music venues. I mean, even I don't know, even like small businesses that might be on main roads. Again, if people want to do this, they can reach out, and then I guess by location, you kind of decide if it's a good placement for Hope for the advertisers. There's a bit of due diligence, I guess, around location. So how does one sort of get a Hope machine and maybe give an idea of where they're sort of at now?
Yeah. If you're someone who wants to host a Hope Station, hopehydration.com, you scroll to the bottom, we have a contact form and you say, hey, this is who I am. We want to host a station. I think the perks for being a host not only is do you get free water, which in a lot of like case studies that we have, you get more traffic, people are stopping. If it's in front of a store, they'll stop and potentially walk in, things like that. But we also offer our hosts a percentage of the revenue that we make as a thank you for hosting the stations. So we're actually paying back the ad money to, in some cases,
Love it.
local mom and pop shop
Yep.
on Main Street who
Yep.
during like August and September, it's not peak months and it's a little bit close. Well, we want to be a solution that like is able to one provide you free water and the community free water, but also hopefully help you pay rent. And I think that that's part of the model, and that scales up
Huge.
all the way to our national partners. We're
Yep.
in airports, we're in stadiums, we're at some of the biggest music festivals in the world. It's the same exact model, just on a like Olympic sized level for some of these like massive national or multinational partners.
I want to dig into a little bit of the business model, and obviously it's sort of advertiser backed, but like the software is that software you guys build? Are you piggybacking like a white label solution, and then is it brands log into a dashboard and they put their advertising in there? They pick a location. Is it sort of kind of like billboard software? I guess be as detailed as possible, man. I like to nerd out on this stuff, but what's the business model like, and how is it from a advertiser point of view? How do they leverage it?
On the software side, I'll actually take a step back. When we first founded Hope, we were on a call with let's call it top five largest US city government. And it was like probably 30 or 40 of the agency leads, the department leads, so on and so forth. And we were in the process of like exploring a pilot. One of the questions we asked them, and I'll mention top five largest US cities. We asked them, how many water fountains do you guys have? And they said, oh, well, we don't know. We actually send someone out with a pencil and paper and a clipboard to like manually verify, oh, yeah, the water fountain's still here. Does it work? Yes, it works.
Crazy.
And I was just like, okay, massive opportunity for us, right? The infrastructure is 20, 30, 40 years where it should be. There's absolutely no insights, no data, no this. But like I'm wearing a watch here that can like notify the police if I have a heart attack. Like there's a huge
Yeah.
delta. And so for us, we're like, what does that delta look like, and how can we start solving the problems of our stakeholders? We don't want to just build to build, but like let's really kind of listen and build for people. And so what ended up happening over a couple of years is we kind of split the software components into two pieces. One is the in-unit software components that is sensor tech, impression counters for measuring out of home, water solutions. So we're able to tell you in real time, second by second, how many people have refilled, what the filter life is, what trends look like, what sustainable impact looks like, et cetera, right?
Crazy.
But you can kind of imagine the two software components as one really driven around like the water system and one really driven around the advertiser system. For the most part, I'd say probably 90% of our software stack is completely ground up dev.
Wow.
There's certain solutions, especially on the advertiser side, that are just so mainstream in the ad business that we
Yep.
want to be working with them. They open
Yeah,
us up to
definitely.
programmatic networks and things like that. Well, we'll probably in the next 3 to 4 months announce a new big partnership on that front. But everything else we've built from the ground up. And that's really like you can imagine these tools being one of the biggest issues in the water fountain space is long-term upkeep. right?
Yeah.
We install 1 million of these. Okay, amazing.
Yep.
But in a year,
Yep.
90% of them break or they're dirty to a point people don't refill. Well, then we've wasted money. Like it's not going to work. And so we built a custom, it's all the way from alerts to management of inventory. It's completely streamlined where if we have an event, if we have a new permanent station going in the ground, fleet management, organizing the tasks, uptime, being able to remotely configure, post install alert system and like self healing system, all of that. So then we don't have to have a fleet of 10,000 people like going out and physically checking, does this machine work anymore? No. Like, hopefully, we get to the point, especially at the dawn of AI, where like this machine can just fix itself forever. Like,
Yep.
that's the North Star.
Interesting.
Let's see how close we can
Yep.
get.
Yep. Going back to that call you've had sort of with a city, what was your sort of then pitch to them after you heard that information or lack of, I guess? I mean, the solution is really clear, right? Like your pitch to them is like phenomenal. It's free. It's a beautiful piece of hardware, which I think is important to mention that
Thank you.
it kind of helps the environment that it's around. It's sort of it attracts people to it. Like you said, for the small businesses or airports, music festivals, it adds sort of this piece of digital art, let's say, to the environment that I think is sort of helpful in a lot of different areas. But what was that when you found out this sort of lack of info that the city had, and you could take that to any city, right? Probably if it's a big top 5 city, you know, cities 6 through 50 probably have the same problem.
Totally.
What did you, I guess, talk with them about after you found that information?
To contextualize that conversation, we founded the company on May 14th, 2020. So
Mm,
weird time to
mm, mhm.
found a outdoor water fountain solution at the peak beginning of COVID. So conversation for another day. But we spent about 18 months in this like exploration phase. What we didn't want to do, and we still follow this principles, we don't want to build things to build them. We'll get people to say, this is what I want, and then reverse engineer, build them, and then deliver. And so this conversation was probably one of the first that we had in that 18 month like exploration phase. And it really helped shape a lot of like what the product looked like. Right. So you've got massive city, massive needs, very little insight into like the data or even the usage or the upkeep or anything, right? But it's also like beginning of COVID. So a concern that we kept hearing come up and up again is like sanitary concerns. It's like, well, we don't want buttons anymore. We don't want bottles touching anything. It needs to be totally touchless. And so we really lucked out in those first 18 months of like the world going through COVID, massive shifts, massive transitions, new like concerns, old concerns being like forgotten of, being able to shape the product. And so like to put you in the mindset of our team, David Teig, our one of our 3 co-founders and leads hardware engineering, was like really tasked with trying to take all of this under the guise of, number one, it needs to be a beautiful product. If it's
Mhm.
not a
Yeah.
beautiful product, you start interfering with people's trust, and if people don't trust it, then the whole system falls apart. So it needs to be something that visually is stunning, which I think Dave has done an incredible. Dave, his team, the software team, everyone has done an incredible job at like making it visually stunning. And then 2, we need to be constantly finding these feedback loops that every month, every 2 months at most, we're able to take a massive amount of feedback data and new customer insights and launch the next product version. And so to back to your question, we spent the first 18 months really in this exploration phase. And then when we launched, the goal was how many iterations, how many versions can we go through in a single year?
Hmm.
Installing 100 stations in a city was not the way to do that, because once they're in there, it's really hard to like upgrade a machine or like change things, right? They're like there, and once you put them in the ground, like they're there. And so we pivoted our business model, and it worked out very well because COVID and all this stuff was happening too. But events were starting to open back up.
Yep.
So you've got
Huge.
conferences, sporting events, music festivals, and we're like, hold on, this is a really interesting market, because you've got a 3-day event, and then you've got like a 5-day period of nothing, and then you got another 3-day event, and then a 5-day period. And so if you think about like a year calendar, we potentially could go after 52 events every weekend and then have the week to upgrade the product. does that work? And so we went to market and we said, we're only going after events. And of course, we didn't we didn't land 52 events in our first year. But we did have a feedback loop of less than a month where we went through like 9 or 10 unique product versions in those first 12 months at market. And single biggest thing I think we did right was that because we went to market with like a very beta product and we left the year with this product that was like, oh, this is almost ready for like complete scale. We've done so many events this year. We've got so much learning. We've gotten paid. So as a startup, we've like proven there's a model here. We've started to build our brand at some, with our first major music festival. We think we try to like shoot for the moon. It was Ultra Music Festival in Miami. It's like
Hmm.
one of the largest music festivals in the world. And so it's like by being there, we're getting tons of data, tons of usage, tons of learning, and we're building the Hope brand. Like that was probably one of the biggest successes in our early days was that model and being able to constantly innovate, 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 innovate. 5 years later, here we are, and we're like on version I don't even know anymore, but we still try to keep that thesis and that mentality of how quickly can we turn around the next model and
Yep.
why?
Yep.
Not just to turn it around, not whatever. Who's telling us that they would pay for this? Okay, great, let's do it. Or what users giving us feedback? Like I love when people Instagram DM me personally or the Hope account. I had one from a young gentleman. He's probably in his teens or early 20s. And he's like, I refill from the stations in the airport in Minneapolis constantly. And
Yep.
these are the three things that I would love to see. And I was like, done, done, and done.
That's
Add
awesome.
it to the next batch.
I mean, I want to go back to just, I mean, Series A, 20 million. I mean, awesome, man. Congrats. I mean, that means a lot of things are working and can be improved. And there's some foundational stuff that's positive here. Talk about, raising that money. I mean, obviously going back to your dad, he's a great person to tap to and be like, hey, how do we raise this properly, appropriately? And how do we put that capital stack together to make sure it is successful for the future? I guess talk about raising that type of money, kind of a first time founder doing something like that.
Probably the hardest thing a founder will ever do, raising money for a hardware startup. You've just like multiplied that difficulty on like a factor of whatever. And then doing it first time, where I think the difference between a first time and a second time founder, or even first time founder through multiple processes, is just really understanding like how to fundraise and like really like building FOMO and like having a good pipeline and like keeping everything really, really clear, being very diligent on timelines, but also being like 10 minutes into a meeting, it's like, this is not a fit. I don't want to waste the next 45
Yep.
minutes with you.
Yep.
And like building those roadblocks to keep your time. I think all of that was a lot of learnings. I'll shout out my dad, although he was one of our first investors. He was an angel investor, and he was like, "I hope this works out. Good luck." Um,
Pun
but
intended.
yeah, but the venture landscape is completely different than any
Sure.
sort of like late stage IPO, pre IPO, whatever. So I find myself. He's like, "So what does this mean?" Anyway, I think to the Series A, the Series A was we just closed a couple weeks ago. Was a beautiful raise because the two partners that came on, uh, the lead and the follow on, they were both investors in our seed round. Our Series A, in my opinion, was our traction round. It wasn't new investors that we're trying to pitch and say this is the dream. No, these were existing investors that some like Pentair had been part of the Hope journey since like we launched. And they've just seen the evolution of us going from like this idea and pitch deck to our first ever launch, which was with Nike, to then getting landing Ultra and then being able to do all of these product iterations. And like our partnership with both Pentair and Burn Island has been and continues to be incredible. And I think that this round was just the culmination of showing what we're doing, showing it's working, showing that both on the landowner side, like people really want this national level and local level, and we want to be able to service everybody. But then on the advertiser side, like outdoor advertising and digital advertising in general is a double-digit billion-dollar industry. Like we don't need a big piece of that pie to be able to realize the vision of finding free water on every street corner. And so it was a beautiful round to come together because it was for me just we had another investor of ours, Adam Draper. who another story for another time, but I called him every day for 6 months to get him to invest. And he tests that. But I called him during the round and he was like, sounds like this round is you just doubling down on existing partners. And that's the most beautiful kind of round. And so I'll take his words. This round was that doubling down on two really good existing partners. And that's a beautiful.
Where is it? A couple more questions as we wrap up here. One is where can people do this at? What airports are we in? Maybe what cities? Give us maybe a landscape of where these machines are at and how people, could access them today.
We're very much growing, so we're only in a few select markets right now, but by the end of the year we want to have more. We're currently servicing LA, Boston, Miami, New York, and Minneapolis permanently. I
Nice.
will say that we just launched a partnership a couple weeks ago with Liquid IV, where we helped build Hope stations within Rivian cars that are totally branded Liquid IV, and those, if you go on our website, I think it's hopehydration.com
Something like that.
slash LIV Hydra Truck, Live Hydra Truck. You'll
That's
see the
sick.
tour schedule, but they are driving around the country right now. So we're trying to bring water to you. Um, but the North Star is clear. It has not deviated. It's figure out the model that scales across the country, and then figure out how that scales across the world. If you should be able to find free, high quality, drinkable water within no more than a 5 minute walk everywhere around the world. So if you're based in the US and you want to host a station, please reach out to us because we want to service you as quickly as possible. And if on the advertiser side, if you're an advertiser who wants this new way, really interactive medium to be able to not only like display messages, but have a conversation with people where people are stopping, it's really hot, they're refilling, and they're walking away saying thank you to you, also please reach out because it only works when the entire community comes together, and the community are our local partners that are giving us places to install, our advertising partners who are funding it, and then you all who are listening that are refilling and want to refill. And if those three things come into tandem, beautiful things happen.
Yep. I'll end a little bit just on the future, man. I know, and a lot of things are happening, and there's a lot of things moving. But talk about the next 3 to 5 years. What do you and the team want to achieve? What are some of those goals and successes?
Yeah, I think we're like very systematic in how we view our like scaling, and you've got to be like focused, but you also have to leave a lot of room for unknowns because that's where the beautiful things happen. So we may talk in 5 years and everything is completely different, because if we had talked on day one everything would have been completely different. But phase one of the company was probably the first like year in market. It was just like test, launch, and like learn. Phase two, we entered and exited within about a year, and it was really like figure out what we need to be able to commercialize and commercialize at scale. We entered phase three, which is begin commercialization at scale. Start rapidly expanding new cities, new advertisers, new locations. And like underneath that, I think that the biggest thing that we focused on and continue to focus on in this phase is operational scale. So, what are the tools that we're building? Who are the partners that we're working on that allow us to go from one city to 100 cities in the shortest amount of time possible while still maintaining the highest quality of excellence, quality, so on and so forth. Towards the tail end of this phase, then we start thinking about, okay, cool, we've got a model and a roadmap that really works well in the US. What does that look like internationally? And where are we going to next? And so how do we start thinking about our US scale? It's a long document of how to get a new city, the new general contractors, the stations, whatever. Great. Now what does that look like when we want to scale to a completely different continent? And like that's really unknown because if you look at the drinking water culture of the US and compare it to parts of Asia, it's completely different. Like we
How so?
prefer cold. In a lot of cases in the US, we prefer cold water. A lot of cases around the world, they prefer hot water or,
Hmm.
or warm water. And so like our basis right now is like make the water as cold as possible. Cold waters and bright screens make the hope universe go around. That model doesn't necessarily work in other parts of the world. And so there's, again, go back to the first day where we were talking to that big city and we were like, what are your problems and how can we help? we just have to take that same principle and continue to scale that on a much bigger level. And in cultures where I may not even speak the language, and so there's challenges of say we're probably going to begin that phase 3 to phase 4 jump in the next 18 months, and that's an exciting one because there's just so much new, and it's like building another company from the ground.
Congrats to you and the team, man. It's been a cool ride for you guys, I imagine, and it's a tough thing to build, hardware and then IoT and then everything on top of it. But like that's why it probably hadn't been done, in this way because it is hard. But man, I think the way you built the product, the design, I think man, I could see it being really well received in a lot of places. So best of luck to you and the team, and congrats so far, man.
Thank you for having us. And again, our story is only as big as we can shout it. So thank you for lending your microphone to shout our story. And like my only walk away for listeners is if you have a place you want to install a station, reach out. If you're an advertiser and you want to advertise, reach out. And then if you're just someone who's like, hey, I have this park nearby and I would love free water, please reach out because we will do everything we can to bring you free water.